Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with the final spoilers from Hour of Devastation. So these are all going to be all of the filler cards, the uncommons and the commons, but it's interesting enough to talk about this subject as this will be sealed cards and draft cards, and there also is some hidden gems that are scattered throughout the rest of these spoiler cards, and we'll talk about those specifically. So I'm going to try to go through these cards as quick as possible. We'll talk about mainly their limit playability and kind of where I like in the whole strategy. Of course, you're going to be drafting. I believe they did go back to 2 packs to 1. So 2 Hour of Devastation packs per 1 Amonkhet pack. So Active Heroism is a cool card here starting off because we know how good Untap is with Exert. So Active Heroism, untapping a creature, it gets +2/2, can block an additional creature. That's huge for a lot of the Exert type strategies, especially the green, white, and the green, red. Haven of Enduring Hope, a flying 3/3, gain 3 life. It's a good stabilized card later on for especially like blue-white flying strategies, black-white kind of more mid-range control. It's sometimes a trap card if you are in a red or a green, white type mid-range or aggro strategy, as it's just for 5 mana, you don't care about that 3 life a lot of the times because you're trying to push through, and at that point it's not really going to fit. Like in green, you have better options for some big ground beaters at that slot, and for red it's just too slow when paired with white. So I like it in kind of a blue or a black shell. The Dauntless Haven I think is insanely good for especially the red-white Exert, as it is a 2/1 flying for 3 mana, and whenever it attacks, you untap another creature you control or untap target creature you control. So it effectively gives itself vigilance in that aspect, but also it can untap those awesome Exert cards. The Disposal Mummy, when Disposal enters the battlefield, exile target card from opponent's graveyard. In Limited, I wouldn't underestimate this card because there's so much Eternalize and Embalm. This is just pure value. So these are going to be your 18 through 23rd slots. I wouldn't pick them up early, but I definitely would keep my eye open for them, especially if they wheel. They're very solid. If 3 mana for 2/3 is generally weak in today's day and age, but this is half a card that it gets rid of. So I'm all for that. Jera's Renunciation. Geez, I can't talk today. Got a frog in my throat. 2 mana for a tap up to 2 target creatures, cycling. All the cards that have cycling are good, as if you can get them with other things that say whenever you cycle a card or discard a card, do something. This can just be a filler card. Effectively, this just becomes very similar to what we've had in the past with blue cards that are just pay a mana, draw a card. They effectively make your deck smaller. Instead of a 40-card deck, you're really playing like a 39 or a 38 when you think of these type of cards, because you're just going to cycle them to draw a card. And in like going back to red-white aggro, even in blue-white, tapping 2 creatures down for a turn, in Limited that's huge because it's all about trying to push through that last bit of damage. Your opponent's like keeping up blockers, so you're trading that tick for tack, and they attack him with a couple creatures, and okay, you decide to let him go unblocked, and then end step you tap down 2 creatures, attacking for lethal. There you go. These type of scenarios happen all the time. So what I like about this though is a lot of times it's a trap card to be picking up a lot of these because they get stuck in your hand or really just end up not really doing a lot. This can just be cycled away. Catcher's Avenger, 2 mana for 3/1, and you can exert it to prevent all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. That's kind of cool because you can just keep slamming in with a 3/1. I've always liked 3/1s for 2 mana in formats. Yes, they can get blown out by Magma Spray. So in this format, there's like the Blazing Volley. Is it Blazing Volley or Blazing something that does 1 damage to all creatures? Those sometimes can wipe your board if you have a lot of those, but this one seems really, really powerful, as right there with the Jera's Renunciation. But this guy can get in, or gal can get in for 3 damage, or at least kill a blocker and then stay alive. And then you tap down things, and this is a fast clock. So I really do like this card. Sandblast, very, very good card in the format. 5 damage to attacking or blocking creature for 3 mana. This is solid removal. This is easily first pickable if there's nothing better in your pack, no bombs or anything, because it's going to kill almost everything in the format. Kills even Glorybringers, for that matter. Glorybringer, of course, will get the Exert trigger, but still, it's something that can deal with it. So very versatile removal spell that you should be highly picking up. Saving Grace, 2 mana for a flash enchant, or an aura, that says when it enters the battlefield, all damage that would be dealt to you or other permanents you control is dealt to enchanted creature instead. I'm sure there's some wacky combos with this, and then it can give +0/+3 to a creature. So it's all right. I think these cards are a lot more narrow and limited than, I don't know, maybe they do. I tend to shy away from them because I like to have a game plan, not kind of rely on scenarios to happen throughout the game for a card to be good. But I guess it's solid. Solitary Camel, a 3/2 for 3 mana. Like it already because, again, I think those it's better than a 2/3 in my opinion. And the Camel has lifelink if you have a desert in your graveyard or control a desert. So lifelink's very powerful. I think this is a solid card. Again, these are 18 to 23 pickups for your deck. The Unconventional Tactics, 3 mana, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until in turn. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield, you can pay a white to return it back to your hand. That's interesting because if you were in a zombie-based deck, this could be your evasion to really push through that last bit of damage. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to pick this up early. These are going to be the cards that trickle in if you happen to be in zombies. So yeah, it's cool. It's a cool idea. But as far as draft is concerned, it's a lot more narrow. All right, Aerial Guide, 3 mana for a 2/2. When Aerial Guide attacks another attacking creature, gains flying until in turn. These have always been pretty good. And I really like these in green. Green-blue shells, this is awesome to give your 7/7 flying until in a turn. An Aven Reedstalker, a 2/3 flying flash. These are good in like the blue-black and white-blue control-based shells. You can hold up mana for a counterspell or removal spell and then just flash in. The Bird Warrior, if you don't cast anything on your opponent's turn. These flash creatures really make counterspells a lot more playable in Limited. There's nothing worse than you have a 3 mana counterspell trying to really hit that curve perfectly, and so you have to hold up your mana and not do anything on your turn 3, and then on your opponent's turn 3 or turn 4, you have to, a lot of times they can just skip because they know you're holding up a counterspell, and they can basically say, oh, well, I'll just, and you just feel like you've wasted a turn. With the cards that have flash, that's when, I guess this would be on turn 4, for example, you could hold up that counterspell. They don't cast anything that's worthwhile to counterspell, and a turn, you have a 2/3 flyer. Pretty solid. Countervailing Winds, 3 mana, counter target spell unless they pay 1 for each card in your graveyard, and cycling. I like this as well because same idea. If they didn't have anything worthwhile, just cycle it away. I think cycling is a very, very powerful ability in the Limited, as well as Constructed. Cunning Survivor, 2 mana. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Cunning Survivor gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked this turn. That is pretty good. Is this Pauper playable? I'm not quite sure it is quite Pauper playable. I don't know if there's a lot of cards in blue that have the draw a card, discard a card that you want to be pairing with this, but this can get huge. We all know that there's basically the prowess unblockable. It's not quite prowess, it just gets +1/+0 and unblockable, which is playable in like the Kiln Fiend type decks in Pauper. And this seems just as powerful or more powerful because it's per spell you can actually discard more than 1. Like the prowess, you're only getting the 1 trigger per spell, but discarding you can, and there's other ways to do so as well. So I think that this card is pretty powerful in Limited. It can be your beater, even though it's just a 1/3 for 2 mana. Again, there's a lot of cards, you cycle, you're getting for 3. You haven't really lost any value here because you're drawing cards for what you've cycled. And yeah, I like this card a lot. It also works with the blade type strategy. A lot of people were going the snake that has unblockable and then is throwing some equipment on it. And I think this is pretty much in that category. So yeah. Imaginary Threats. I like this card a lot. I like the blue Trickery spell. So creatures target opponent controls attack this turn if able. During that player's next untap step, creatures here controls do not untap. So that's pretty powerful with tapping down all of making your opponents have some attacks that probably don't work out for them. So you can then block and kill the creatures that you can do so. And then the other creatures won't untap. So yeah, this can be effectively a board wipe from your opponent and just a lockdown for an entire turn. So I really like the Imaginary Threats. The only problem is creatures that they cast that turn can't attack because Summoning Sickness And so it's not quite like, what's the old school? There's a card that used to do this, 4 mana, something ice out of M14 or M13. It was pretty much a blowout when you were in the green-blue strategy, tapping down your opponent's creatures and then they don't untap for a turn. And yeah, so anyway, so I've played with cards like this in the past, and they are pretty powerful. Riddle Form. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have Riddle Form become a 3/3 Sphinx creature with flying. So effectively, it's a 2 mana for a 3/3 flying with Scry. I wouldn't underestimate that. That's pretty powerful, but it's not reliable, especially in limited when you're trying to go heavy creatures. So it is blue. You're going to be typically having more spells than the other colors because a lot of times you just can't pick up enough creatures. So basically, this turn 2, then turn 3, you cast a non-creature, swinging for 3. You can actually cast something on your opponents and then turn this into a 3/3 and block something. I think it's pretty solid. The Scry is actually pretty good in limited, but sometimes this card can be very lackluster, especially when you're just heavy on lands and heavy on creatures. You can just sit back and dirtle for a lot of turns. The Spell of Your Eternal, a 2/1 Prowess. That's always good. Anti-Flick 2. Really do like this card. I don't know. Blue feels kind of awkward because, like I said before, you're not really in the aggro, but pair this with like Cunning Survivor and the Blade strategy, and this is a solid card because at least it's getting for 2 damage each time. The Prowess makes it can get in for 3. It's going to be a very, very solid card. Now here's a card everyone is talking about. So here's one of those like Silver Lining cards out of the kind of the bulk cards that are spoiled at the end. Is the Striped Riverwinder. This is a cycling 1, so it's really, really good for Living End. Living End, it can easily go into blue now. I think that they have an enchantment that's blue-white. It's kind of weird, though, because the Cascade cards are pretty much all over the place. You have one that's red-black. One that the best one was Violent Outburst is green and red. And so that's why usually people run the red-black and the green-red because it's 3 colors you can get away with. Yeah, and then is there a green-white one? I can't remember if it's 4 mana with the Cascada with it. But anyway, this one's pretty solid because it's a 5/5 hexproof for just cycling blue. And that is very, very powerful. You'd really have to justify going into blue if there's anything that blue actually gets for Living End. But it's definitely an option. Unquenchable Thirst. If it enters the battlefield, you control a desert or a desert card in your graveyard, you can tap Enchanted Creature, and Enchanted Creature does not untap during its untap phase. We've seen cards like this in the past. They're really good removal because if it's tapping, if a creature already has attacked, you can then just tap it down indefinitely. And in summons are always pretty solid. These are great with particular, like the cartouches still exist. So, and there is some pretty good, especially the black cartouche. This was a good one to unsummon a creature when they cast it on it. So you basically just remove the aura from a creature. And you can actually use this on your own creatures if someone's done like an Unquenchable Thirst, for example. So unsummon is pretty good. Beyond that, it can play the tempo very, very well. We all know that Vapor Snag was a really powerful card because it just did 1 damage. Well, Unsummon's basically Vapor Snag without the 1 damage, which can be relevant, but a lot of times the 1 damage isn't very relevant. So anyway, pretty solid card. Banewhip Punisher, 3 mana. Whenever Banewhip Punisher enters battlefield, you may put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and then you can sacrifice to destroy a creature with a +1/+1 counter. So effectively 4 mana, this is removal. This is a very, very solid pickup. You'll be picking these early. These are easily like 2nd, 3rd pick. 2/2 can kill a creature right off the bat, like a 3/1, for example. It takes care of that. And then later on the road, if you can put a -1 counter on anything else, you can sacrifice it to destroy that creature. So very, very solid card for limited. The Grizzly Survivor, 3 mana for 2/3. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, it gets +2/+0 until turn. This card can get huge with some cycling cards. I mean, you can swing it for 6 mana easily on turn 4. And again, not be down any cards. So these are pretty good. You need a deck that is built around this, but it's solid for 3 mana. A lot of these cards have been pretty solid. I'm pretty surprised at the power level of of these packs or these cards. Lethal Sting, 3 mana. As an additional cost, you put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control and then destroy a creature. That's perfectly fine. The sorcery speed is a little bit awkward, but it's 3 mana to destroy a creature in limited. It's solid. This is a very, very good card you're going to be picking up quickly. Here's a nice 4/2 cycler for 2 mana. This is fine. It's gets a creature into your graveyard. It's just cycling black. It's definitely these are the perfect cards if all of a sudden you're struggling to find that 21, 22, 20 position card. Just chuck this in, and it's no skin off your back. It's just a solid cycler. Again, works with like Grizzly Survivor. Later on, you can get it back from your graveyard. If anything happens to deal stuff in your graveyard, it's a perfect card. Speaking of which, like I've always wanted to build a Liliana Reanimator deck, and I don't know if this is taking up Liliana for just a 2/2 would be better than reanimating a 4/2, but these are always awesome little strategies to cycle a bunch of cards in your graveyard and then use either the Liliana to reanimate it, or you also have the old school Shadows Were Innistrad card that returns 2 cards back from your graveyard. So maybe I'll use it in that. Moaning Well, 3 mana for a 0/5 defender. This is a sideboard card if your opponent is all-out aggro. I still don't even like it that much. 0/5 doesn't block flying, unblockable, menace, all that kind of stuff. Ruin Rat, 2 mana for a Death Toucher. Sure, that's fine. The Scrounger of Souls, 3/4 lifelink for 5. It's, again, 20 to 23rd slot. Lifelink is pretty good in the format, especially a body that can really survive most attacks. It does come out late. It's okay. Vile Manifestation, 2 mana for 0/4. Also has cycling, and it gets +1/+0 for each card with cycling. So it's just so much better than the Moaning Wall right off the bat. Yeah. It gets bigger. It still though is awkward. It's only 2 mana, and it has cycling itself. And I mean, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. It can get solid later on. It's fine. Without Weakness, 2 mana. Target creature you control gains indestructible and has cycling. That's fine. I wish it had like another indestructible and Death Touch, indestructible and +1/+0, indestructible and something. I think that sometimes these become too narrow. It protects a creature, but it can get stuck in your hand. It does have cycling. I don't know. It's again, none of these cards seem like what scenario would I not want this card? Usually there are a ton of those in sets. All right, Blur of Blades, 2 mana. Put a -1 counter on target creature and deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. 2 damage, kill off a 3/1 or 2/1, sure. And there's a lot of 1 toughness, as you can see in red. So I think this is going to be more relevant. It also does pair well with like the -1 counter strategies that are definitely, I mean, they're usually in the green-black, but if you get enough green, for example, green-red can utilize this. And 2 damage to creature's controller is solid. All right, Burning Fist Minotaur, 2 mana for a 2/1 first strike. Already like it. And then it has the ability to discard a card to get +2/+0 until end of turn. Very, very good card in the uncommon slot. It does die. The 1 toughness is it dies to a lot of those Magma Sprays, -1 counters. But all in all, I think this is quite solid. It enables a lot of the discard cards that get activations off of discarding. Crash Through, 1 mana. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn, draw a card. I've always been a fan of the 1 mana draw cards that actually cast because it does trigger off prowess. And I think that we have a lot of already spells at this slot. I'm surprised that no one's been able to effectively build like a blue-red prowess strategy. There's still some pretty powerful. We have the 1/3 flying prowess. We have now a 1/2 Soulscar Mage prowess, and I believe there's some other decent little prowess cards. And it does synergize with this next card, which could put it over the top because we also have the Thermal Alchemist in that slot. So these cards can see play if you're just trying to go through a deck that is just trying to cast a ton of spells with the prowess strategy. Who cares about creatures you control gain trample? And again, that can work though with the prowess card, the 2 mana flyer, because giving it the you also have some blue-red cards that count in many sorceries and instances in your graveyard, so it works with that. So it's just a filler card. Yeah, it's maybe this will bring us enough. There's the target creature can't block, draw a card. Target creature gains haste, draw a card, and now creatures gain trample, draw a card. In the format, if you count Battle for Zendikar and whatever the haste one was out of. So could this be a card that makes that archetype playable? If not, the Firebrand Archer definitely could. Now, this is another one, this kind of silver lining in the rest of the spoilers. This is like a better Thermal Alchemist. I don't know, Alchemist has the toughness, but the Archer doesn't need to tap, so it could actually tack in and still get the benefit. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Even in like Storm, this actually is a card. I mean, Burn does. I don't think Burn wants it in Modern. It just probably is too weak, but it definitely is like a budget version for Goblin. I don't know. Goblin Guy's the 1 mana. An Eidolon punishes your opponent every time they cast a card and it does 2 damage. So it's just not quite there. But this is a powerful, powerful card. This is not to be underestimated. 1 damage, so you put it out on turn number 2. You start casting spells. This card can easily, before it gets solved, dish off 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. And it just costs you 2 mana. In fact, if it gets in for an attack, there's the 2 damage. And then anything else you cast. So like I said, with all the other cards, the like is haste, draw a card. 1 damage. This tacks on 1 damage every time you cast a spell. It's Thermal Alchemist with a little weaker body. So it does die to Magma Spray. But still, it's a solid card. We could see a Thermal Alchemist, Firebrand Archer, Fevered Vision type deck coming back. It could even, yeah, definitely. All right, Granitic Titan. 5/4 cycling menace, 6 mana, sure. Solid pickup. Kindled Fury, target creature gets +1/+0 on first strike. I tend to shy away from this card because it doesn't do enough. Yes, it can be creature like removal because you can give your creature first strike and save it. Magmaroth. Now this is another one that has a pretty cool ability. It's a 5/5 for 4, and the beating drop can put a -1/1 counter on it. So if you have anything that triggers off of -1/1 counters, this is really, really good as it just continues to give you those -1/1 counters each turn. And whenever you cast on a creature spell, you remove 1 anyway. So a lot of times it's going to be a 5/5 very often for 4 mana. So I think it's pretty solid. The Puncturing Blow, 4 mana for 5 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it. It is sorcery speed, so that's the one negative thing about it. But it does, like Angel of Sanctions, for example, exiles is gone forever. So limited, these are quite good. If you're low on removal, this is going to be something you're going to be picking up a lot of. The Thorned Moloch, 3 mana for 2/2 prowess. It has first strike as long as it's attacking. Very solid. It's often be a 3/3 while attacking, sometimes even a 4/4. And first strike is it's a great card. Plus the lizard. We all love lizards. Ambuscade, 3 mana, target creature gains +1/+0 until in turn, deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. Instant speed, very solid card. This is your green removal spell. It isn't fight, so it's better than fight. Sometimes fight's better because, no, it deals damage. The creature deals damage, so lifelink still does work. Yep, so this is just a better fight. So +1/+0, fight something without getting fought back. Solid removal, so even your 3/1s, your 3/2s, and green is full of those type of cards. Do 4 damage to a creature on turn 3, instant speed, or while attacking. So your opponent tries to double block, for example, kill off that one. Your other one will then kill off the other one, survive. It's a solid card. You should be picking up these extremely high. Probably not first pickable, but definitely second, third, fourth. Beneath the Sands, 3 mana for a search your library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield tapped, cycling 2. I do like the cycling aspect to Beneath the Sands. Wish it had instant speed, though. I think that if they're 3 mana, they need to have instant speed for this type of effect. Otherwise, they need to go back to the 2 mana ramp. It does cycle or curve well with the 5 mana. Go get 2 lands. I definitely want to brew around that card because I think Ulamog's going to have a comeback, as you're going to go get 2 of the shrines and then be able to tap for Ulamog or Kozilek, which I think is solid for a green ramp spell, or a mono green like list. And Beneath the Sands could also go in that deck. I think Hedron Archive is possibly better, but the Beneath the Sands is something that will curve nicely with the 5 mana ramp spell. Bitterblow Sharpshooters, Vigilance Reach 4/4 for 5, sure, it's filler. Devotee of Strength, a 3/2 for 3, and can give creatures +2/+2 until end of turn. So it's almost got this the god type ability for 5 mana. It's pretty solid. Instead of 3 mana, though, it doesn't give it trample either, but it's not bad. Tap and untap does you control. You gain a life, 2/3 for 3. This is probably one of the worst cards so far, in my opinion. It's pretty bad. A 1/3 for 2 mana whenever the Feral Prowler dies, draw a card. This is kind of cool with Eldritch Evolution. I kind of like this because it curves perfectly with Eldritch Evolution for a 2 into a 4. So you can like Gaunty. So Feral Prowler into Gaunty and draw a card. But I think that we already have cards that are like this. But if I ever do go back to Eldritch Evolution, it probably is the best slot for 2. It is a 1/3, so it's actually pretty good too, because if this is basically the Matter Reshaper, even though Matter Reshaper is the 3/2 for 3 mana. It's a beater. Too bad this isn't a 3/1. I would have really liked this card as a 3/1 rather than a 1/3. And it's kind of weird. Cats usually are the 3/1s. It is a cat you can run for Cat Tribal, but that's a stretch. And yeah, it's solid though. This is a solid pickup. Really wish, 2/2 or a 3/1. Disappointing, because it would have been a really good early beater, and then if it dies, you just draw a card. So anyway, Frilled Sandwalla, 1/1, and you can give it +2/+2, so effectively you can swing in for 3. Pretty solid pickup. Turn 1 or turn 2 swings in for, it can swing in for 3. If not, swings in for 1. Then later on you can pump it up. It always like makes your opponent. This is the perfect card for casting things on your second main phase, because it makes your opponent play around this, and so you can get in there for a damage you usually wouldn't have been able to get in with the damage, because if they have a 2/2 out, then they would just block it. But they're not going to block it because you can pump it up, so you can just get in there for the damage, and then second main phase cast whatever you were going to cast. Yeah, it's a solid card. Gift of Strength. Target creature gets +3/3 and reach until end of turn for 2 mana. Sure, it's decent. And we have your 3 mana for 3/3. These are good 20 to 23rd pickups. Overcome is good in a go wide strategy. A lot of the tokens are not in green at the moment, though. They're in black or white for the format, and it is 5 mana, so that's a pretty steep cost. And it's no overrun. It's not +3/3. It's +2/+2. But trample is great. This can be a blowout in the right strategy. Plus, in even a green deck, look at all these like 3/3, 3/3, 3/2. You can get out early, and then this can just be a game finisher easily. Quarry Beetle. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target land from your graveyard to the battlefield. A lot of the deserts have activations where you sack them. This can actually be useful. It's a 4/5, get back on land. I don't know. It's very tough and limited, though, to make it worthwhile. And same thing even in Constructed. I don't know if this is even powerful enough for the Gitrog Monster Commander decks, as its 5 mana is pretty steep to get back on land from your graveyard. So, A Hippo, 5/6 trample cycling. Sure, it's decent. Resilient Kenra, we've seen this. This is just the English version of it. Eternalize, and gives a creature +X/X, where X is its power. Tenacious Hunter. This is a card that's actually quite good for an uncommon. It's 4 mana. As long as a creature has -1 encounter, as Vigilance and Death Touch. Death Touch is kind of pointless on a 4/4 for 4 mana. It's going to kill everything, usually kill everything that that's out at that time. But I mean, as it goes on, it still is going to kill everything that becomes bigger than it. Again, not a lot of creatures will be bigger, but here's a Hippo, for example, that it will kill with Death Touch. Vigilance is awesome on this card because it can swing in and play the block, but a 4 mana for a 4/4 is quite solid and limited. And it's in the green strategy where it's quite easy to get those -1/-1 counters. Speaking of -1/-1 counters, we have the Obelisk Spider, a 3 mana for a 1/4 reach. And whenever Obelisk Spider deals combat damage to a creature, you put a -1/-1 counter on it. So blocking and attacking is good with that. I wish I had Afflict 3 or something. That would have been great. I think they, it really wanted Afflict. But whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is super solid. I'm sure that there is, again, here's a combo piece with what now Devoted Druid. Even though Devoted Druid can win by itself, but this is something if you have some sort of infinite combo. So Kitchen Finks this Obelisk Spider, you just keep killing it, and your opponent just loses the game because a -1/-1 counter goes on it, and then you lose life and gain a life. So this works not with Malira, but with Anafenza. And there's also other Archangel Thune plus the Quill Spike, plus the... I mean, a lot of things are already just 2 combo, and this makes it awkward with the 3rd. But even in Standard, this with Hepatra, this is easily playable. The 1/4 for 3 mana, Reach, that's actually relevant. What does it block right now in the format that it needs to block? The Rogue Refiner. It blocks Rogue Refiner, which is super solid. And yeah, I think this is very, very constructed playable. And it gets interesting as you go back with more ways to abuse the -1/-1 counters. Yeah, I like this card a lot. All right, Dagger the Worthy, 2 mana for a +2/+0 and Afflict. Sure, it's a nice little equipment you can throw on unblockable creatures. Graven Abomination, 3/1 for 3. That's a nice little filler card if you need a creature. Also, when it attacks a defending player, you exile card, so you can get rid of those Embalm, Eternalize cards. Manalith, 3 mana for a Mana Rock. It's not bad. I don't know if we need a specific Mana Rock in the format at the moment. Traveler's Animate. This one's kind of cool because it gives one last hoorah to Delirium. This also pairs nicely with a lot of things out of Kaladesh. Because there are a lot of things when you sacrifice an artifact, or an artifact goes to the graveyard, or an artifact enters the battlefield, it does something. And I believe Traveler's Animate, the last time it was printed was Theros, right? So it's been a while since it's Innistrad and Theros, I believe, are the printing. So we haven't seen this. Yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot of things that it works with Kaladesh, but Delirium, this is really good because I'm in my Sultai Delirium deck, I've been looking for a good artifact that will just go to the graveyard early. And I think this is perfect because it goes and finds the basic land you need, and also adds to your Delirium count. But it does basically cost 2 mana to do so. But I mean, turn 1 you can cast it, turn 2 you can cast like a Tune with Aether. I'm running a very, very low land count. I think this could even put you even down lower on the land count. Like I run 19 lands in my Sultai Delirium deck, and it's because there's 4 Traverses and 4 Attunes. And I mean, you could probably go down to 18 and run 2 of these, or even 4 of these, and it's pretty decent. Thins out your deck, and man, you could run all basics at that. Just to find enough basics. And the thing is though, Delirium is kind of difficult to get. Like artifact is one thing you need in the graveyard because you're gonna have sorceries and instances and creatures in the graveyard. Land and enchantment and artifact are the tough ones, and this gives you an easy outlet for an artifact. Anyway, Wall of the Forgotten Pharaohs, 2 mana for a 0/4, deals 1 damage to target player, active visibility if you control a desert. This is actually insanely solid and limited if you can get the deserts. I like this card a lot. Yeah, this is solid card. Plays the defender out, deals the damage each turn, and yeah, desert is probably pretty easy to get. Crypt of the Eternals. Shut up, Scout. When Crypt of the Eternals enters the battlefield, you gain a life, add a colorless to your mana pool, and 1 in tap, add a red, black, or blue. I mean, most like Unknown Shores and things already do this for 1 mana, so it's kind of like, this is pretty meh for the Grixis colors. It gives you another way to go Grixis in limited, and it gains a life too, so these should never be underestimated. Even like take this away if you're in like a lot of colorless decks, the gaining life could be relevant. We've seen like the Radiant, what was the Radiant land out of, was it Origins that people started playing, but that gained 2 life. Dunes of the Desert's kind of cool because it synergizes with all the other deserts that you kill deserts to do something. And then when this one dies, you get a 2/2 zombie. It's definitely solid card. And we have the Apocalypse Demon that is power and toughness is equal number of cards in your graveyard. Behavior upkeep, tap Apocalypse Demon unless you sacrifice another creature. I guess in limited this is solid, but this feels so much like a Nightmare type card. It's pretty tough. Like if you're in a self-mill strategy, maybe this can become quite big. But 6 mana, I think there's just better things you can do. I mean, would you rather have Ishkanah at that point, or an Apocalypse Demon that possibly could be like an 8/8 or a 10/10? I don't know. Maybe this card is constructed playable. After that, we have cards that I don't think I've gone over before. We're coming close to 35 minutes here, so I'll go quickly. The Sunscorched Champion, which has Eternalize for 4 and discard a card. You gain life equal to its power, so you gain 2 life then 4 life. It's okay. It's another way to actually flip over the Lone Rider. A 7/7 trample whenever it enters the battlefield, scry 3, and then you gain life equal to the revealed card's converted mana cost. Pretty filler. Strategic Planning's cool because you look at the top 3 cards, put one of them in your hand, and the rest into your graveyard. So you're not. This is kind of weird for the cycling and discarded card strategy though, because that doesn't work, and it's not instant speed. It's. Yeah, I really wish they would have gone with the card that says draw 3 and then. Yeah, but that'd just be too good because you can get cards out of your hand that were bad at that point. So I think looking at the top 3 cards of your library is probably the right. Yeah, way to balance this. Wretched Camel, it dies if you control a desert. Target player discards a card, 2 mana for 2/1. It's okay. Whenever a zombie enters a battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until on a turn. This is very solid for the zombie tribal. Manticore Eternal, a 5/4 for 5 mana, Afflict 3, and attacks each turn if able. This is a solid card for 5. It's going to be your top end curve for a either green-red or a white-red type strategy. It's even good in black-red aggro. Dutiful Servant's garbage card, 4 mana for 2/5. Here's your terrible card out of the set. So it's 1 more mana from the exact same art, other than they changed the background here. Instead of a 2/4 for 3, it's now 2/5 for 4. Hour of Devastation, a board wipe, 5 mana. All creatures lose indestructible. Hour of Devastation deals 5 damage to each creature and each non-Bolas Planeswalker. So it's a huge board wipe. This will see play. It's also going to replace Chandra for the board wipe slot for the decks that need to board wipe everything. Very, very good card. Life Goes On, 1 mana. You gain 4 life. If a creature died this turn, you gain 8 life instead. It's very good against aggro-based strategies, so sideboard. We've seen cards like this actually see play in Modern before, as gaining 8 life is perfect versus burn. Tragic Lesson, 3 mana. Too bad it doesn't say target player gains 4 life. That would actually be really sweet because against Death Shadow, you could kill their Death Shadows. Tragic Lesson, 3 mana. Draw 2 cards and discard a card unless you return a land. Sure, that's great. Instant speed. Really, really good for the cycling/discard strategies. Seer of the Last Tomorrow. Discard a card. Target player puts... So here's a mill card. Sure. Survivor's Encampment is just a rework of Allied Encampment, right? Yep. Ronus' Stalwart. 2 mana. You may exert it. When you do, it gets +1/+1 until in a turn and can't be blocked with powers with power 2 or less. Pretty solid card. Can't be chump blocked. And where did we get to before? I think we got to Consign, right? Yep, that's where we got to with the last spoiler video. The Abandoned Sarcophagus. We have, you may cast non-land cards with cycling from your graveyard. It's a pretty cool engine. I don't know if it's worthwhile, though. You have to have a ton of cycling cards, and then they have to be relevant. Going back into formats in the past, though, this is really, really powerful. You cycle things very early, you get value out of cycling them, and then you can cast them later on. Sure, I actually like this card. I think is there enough cards that are worthwhile? We'll have to wait and see. The Majestic Mariarch, or Miriarch. It's a X or a star. Its power and toughness is equal to twice the numbers of creatures you control. So in a token strategy, it's decent. At the beginning of combat, it gains everything that other creatures have. First strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance. So kind of pairs with Odric. And this way, if you stack it correctly, I believe that then with Odric, you can give all of your creatures these. So, I don't know. It just seems unplayable, though, when constructed, because for 5 mana, is it really going to have any sort of value? I mean, it's huge if you have a double strike. So, like a double strike death touch. Yeah, there's some... So what's the 2 mana Aether that it gets death touch and lifelink, for example? You have one of those out. You have a few other cards out, then an Odric out. It's to me, so it's probably too tough in standard to actually make it work. But casuals are going to love this card. Leave to Chance. Return any number of target permanents you own to your hand and discard any number of cards. Then draw that many cards. I'm sure somewhere someone's going to break this. This also is another one of those paradoxical outcomes. So you can return everything and then play everything again. Yeah, Leave is actually pretty powerful. I'm sure people are going to find some broken combos. I talked about the Crested Sunmare in an entire video. Go check this out when I live streamed. This card is my favorite card so far, so spoiler for my top 10. lists I will be doing. The Crested Somewhere is by far my favorite card, Spoiled. We have a Bloodwater Entity, a 3 mana for 2/2 flying prowess. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. Bonfire of the Damned wants this card. But yeah, so I think actually in Modern, this card could see play. The prowess flying is actually quite solid. It can put Collected Company back on top of your library again. This is a cool card. I like it. Even though it doesn't draw a card, it sets your library up. So again, Miracle's great. Anything else that deals with things being on top of your library, pretty good. God Pharaoh's Faithful 0/4 for a white. Whenever you cast a blue, black, or red spell, you gain a life. Pretty sweet for Soul Sisters. I think I actually got to these. Yeah, we talked about these cards for sure. These last ones. So there you have it with the spoiler work. We're approaching 40 minutes, a little over 40 minutes. Talked about the entire set, speed read everything through. I'll be doing a top 10 list of cards I want to brew around, and I'm going to promise you this time, we're going to brew a deck out of every card out of the top 10. I'm going to commit to that. July is, I'm going to try to be really on top of things in July and try to resurrect the YouTube channel and really get back to actually brewing decks. A lot of you have told me you want me to go back to more wackier brews rather than be so obsessed with competitive. You know, one of the goals of mine with Rogue Deck Builder was to build competitive different decks, because I really thought that the magic of Magic was that there were so many cards to work with, and people get stuck in this like metagame, net decking, spike mentality. And a lot of these, I think that just we could see other cards if people would just venture out and brew, and we need more brewers, not just people that will have to win at all costs. And that creates a healthy metagame, and that creates like a really fun Magic experience. But a lot of you have told me you want me to go back to building Blasted Worms, and what are some of the popular decks in the past that were just so bad, but were really fun to play. And I know that Seth he does a series called Against the Odds, and that's kind of, you know, he kind of stole my thunder when he started his channel and really started pushing out the content. It was really, really tough to compete with him because he was just massively brewing with every card imaginable. And I just didn't want to look like I was maybe ripping him off or even though I, you know, existed before. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to brewing more of the wacky decks and just taking a card and then just losing miserably with it, but having a fun time doing so. I don't know. I've just been out of the whole Magic scene for a while. It's been really, really tough to justify in competitive playing anything but Rogue Refiner, because that card is just bonkers good with the energy type strategies. But I'll try to get back on top of things with the more of the brewing. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.